It's Creeper13. Now we're back with another episode of Team Fortress 2. Only this time it's going to be unique. Ah, crap. Okay, never mind. It's going to be unique in the way. It's a training. Well, and in any case, hang on, where's CP. I have a lot of maps, don't I? Let's just do convoy. Okay, join me again. Well, today we're going to be doing some tf2, but we're going to be doing something more unique in the way that I decided it's time that I take a look at my favorite class, the Heavy, and explain a little bit about him and how to avoid common situations. First thing first, the loadout. Now, I prefer either A, stock minigun, the sandwich, and the running gloves of urgency, or in this case, festive gloves of running urgency. For my B, I usually... Okay, hang on, this is a... For my B, I usually use the Fists of Steel. The shotgun, I alternate between the two. Sometimes use stock. And the Tommy Slav. Now, I really love this minigun. I have 3 versions. One of which I earned myself, and the other ones... Each loadout has its own unique purpose, as people all know. I find that I use the Tommy Slav and the shotgun for mostly stealth attacks and infiltration, and a little bit of attacking. The Fists of Steel are to avoid or reduce the damage you get from snipers while going into an open battlefield. Convoy isn't the best map for testing this, but I couldn't really find another one, or at least not quick enough for your entertainment in the others. So that's just the loadout. The stock, however, I find that is useful for defending and mostly getting rid of clusters of enemies. So if your team has a nest to take care of, you should go in there and just sort of hamper it down with your stock minigun, but besides that, here's some actual tips. If a scout is going to do this little twirl where he hits you, don't follow him around like this. Opposite directions so that he gets caught in the spray, and also, as a heavy, you're basically a walking meat shield for... you're really large and mostly the slowest class in the game, unless you're using my loadout B, which is the... hang on. Which is the... as you all know, the stuff. But... that's odd. Well, beyond that point, sorry, I'm not in full wake-up mode yet. Think. If you use these, it reduces sniper damage, and the Tommy Slav has a quicker draw time. A lot of the shots don't fire as fast. It's silent, no roll-up speed, so it's easier for you to get past and infiltrate the enemy lines, and with this, you'll get around quite easily without, of course, headshots, right, but headshots aside, the shotgun. Instead of using the sandwich, the shotgun is useful because you're not going to be having that time to regenerate, unlike your defensive loadout. So, you might as well replace it with something offensive. Now, I alternate between the stock and the family business is because the family business has 8 shots, which is actually a lot for a shotgun. In fact, sometimes I find myself needing those 2 extra shots. But it does have one downside, and it's a damage penalty, which isn't actually that good when you're attacking. So it's not the ideal weapon to use all the time, but still, it has its uses. Stock minigun. It's nice. It still has those 6 shots. It doesn't have a downside. It doesn't have an upside, so you're clear. You're pretty much normal with your other 2 weapons. Taking down sentry nests. It isn't really that heavy solo role, so I would not advise trying to unless you have support from other classes. Now, another thing that my companion DJ Creeper 14 said that now that the gunmetal update is in kind of full swing, a mini sentry and a rescue ranger are hard to take down, and I'll grant you they are. However, if you use the right gear, they aren't actually that tough. Now, you're going to have to use something other than the two loadouts I just mentioned. In fact, the Tommy Slav is not the ideal sentry killer because although it does have a quick drop speed, your slow rate of fire is not going to match the mini sentry's rate of fire. Besides, the engineer is going to have that rescue ranger, so he's going to be able to heal what you can put out and put damage in you just as fast as the mini. So, in that case, I would advise using the Brass Beast if you have a teleporter set up, or the Stalk. Now, the Stalk is because you still travel at a movement speed that way. Like you have that focused rate of fire, and although you lose that stealthy wind up, and granted, it is kind of quick. Like it just feels quicker than it used to for the Stalk, but it's not as quick as the Tommy Slav, yes, but you really won't need that, you won't need that extra wind-up, because if you're good enough, and he puts a sentry, like, you know your positions, of course, you'll know where he puts it down, or if he, let's say, a very common place that I've seen them is right in the middle here, or in the hallway there. If it's in the hallway, try and go over here, then wind it up, slowly come around the turn, gun the sentry down, then immediately dash back here, and just let the engineer rebuild him. But while he's doing it, gun him down, so that's dealt with. With the Brass Beast, however, you're slower and lot worse wind-up speed, so I'm not entirely sure how to use that. So we'll have a guy coming on to help us with that shortly, but I'm guessing that you would just go by sheer firepower, because it does have a damage bonus, in fact. Yeah, see, 20% damage bonus, and 20%, minus 20% range distance when spin up, 50% slower spin up time hasn't really prevented me from using this weapon main streak as much as the Stalk and the Tommy Slav, as well as the slow movement speed. Like 60%? Yikes. Holy crap, who wanna use that? But it does output a lot of damage, and if you're accustomed to being as slow as, or if you're accustomed to being a sentry heavy, which is it's what I call heavy, to just stand there with the medic and defend the point like an intelligence, the Brass Beast is the gun for you, because the movement speed and spin up times you don't have to worry about, because they just always spin up. But for an offensive heavy and actively defensive heavy like me, I prefer to use these to the Stalk and the Tommy Slav. Another usage, or another thing that I want to discuss, is the time for each minigun. This has very little use. In my opinion, I don't even know how you're supposed to use it at all. In fact, it used to have a little bit more stats than that, I think. It creates a ring of flames when spun up, and consumes additional ammo while you're spinning it, so you can't just spin it and not fire, which is the major downside of that gun and why I didn't use it. Also, I used this for a while, until I realized that it had a damage penalty and slower spin up time. Not worth it for just a bit of, it's not worth it for 100% chance to slow a target down. It's just not worth it. I liked it because it gave you additional ammo, but then I found this, and I liked it a lot more. And then with the gun mantle, I don't know if there was a buff or something, but the minigun just suddenly started to turn faster for me, so I use the Stalk now, but that's how you use each minigun. There's not much other usage. Actually there is. These two items I don't tend to use very much. In fact, this one, in my opinion, is just pure, like, look at that. Look at the stats. It's a horrible thing. It takes long time to eat, and has very little usage because the overheal doesn't last. And just you get to share it, yes, but the sandwich can do that too with greater health. You only gain 100 health. The sandwich, 300. Medium medical kit, small medical kit. This one, I do believe this has its purpose. It's mostly for private matches, I find, because otherwise it really doesn't have any use. Because yes, it grants you crits, but only for the melee weapons. Like, you're not going to use melee that much as a heavy. In my opinion, I don't use them at all. So in my opinion, these two items don't serve very much. That's why I mostly alternate between these three. Fists. I haven't actually unlocked all the fists. I'm missing the Apoco somethings, but this one, I like to use them a lot for trolling. I used to use these ones a lot, but slower firing speed? No, can't have that. Also used to use these for a very, very small amount of time, but the 20% max health really kills the spirit being a heavy. The running gloves of urgency, yes, they give you a damage penalty, but I feel that they do have a place because they allow you to escape out of situations that you might not be able to escape out of. So yes, it gives you a damage penalty. What the okay, that was kind of surprising to me. I didn't expect that. Holding nothing. Well, that is, I guess, part 1 of how to be heavy, and... Okay, that's weird. But you can definitely see there it's a faster spin up than it used to. Also, you used to have to wait for that full animation to play. You couldn't just do this, which is also new. So we will see you guys in the next episode of tutorial on how to be a heavy. Hope you like the thumbnail, by the way. I made it myself.